Hey everyone, John Pinkster, excited to be here. One of the devs on the Maestro team that's been building up this Mighty product. Super fun to have you all. We love to have these kind of more informal meetups just to share all the fun things that are happening with Mighty, new feature releases. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have along the way. We also get into a Q&A session where I love it when people unmute and just ask questions and we can dive into some topics that maybe you've got. If you wanted to just share those in the chat, I'll have Sydney kind of call those out and keep track of those. So feel free, even along the way, if you've got questions. We'll also have Emily Green here to spotlight some fun work that she's been doing. She also shared some of this in our Maestro community, which I'll show some of that as well. And she'll dive all into all the things that she's been working on and kind of hopefully create a lot of inspiration based on things that she's been doing there. And obviously, feel free to ask her tons of questions. I'm sure she'll be excited to field those. And then lastly, we'll just get into a product demo, just kind of give you all a look and feel of what Mighty is and some of the inner workings of how it connects with Rise. So to dive into some of the new things that we've released over the last month that we've been together, I'm going to talk about those before we jump over into Community Spotlight. The new things I want to highlight real quick is related to block backgrounds and line height updates. So in order to do that, I'm actually just gonna flip over to our demo course. And what I'm referring to here is, you're in authoring all of your content and, you've got our new fun rich text editor with all of our like recently used colors, and maybe you're using global styles and now you've created a color palette. And if you're not familiar with what global styles is, I can show you that off again real quick. But you've like got this really cool color palette that you've built up, and then you go to change your blocks background color, and historically, it was just kind of that like lame static palette and not a great user experience, not aligned with the Mighty way. So we've replaced that. So now there's this cool, the same color picker you're used to seeing in all the Mighty features. So it's got access to all of your recently used colors, as well as still also pulls in any of your global style palettes that you've used. Now, it is worth noting that if you are hoping it stays tied with your global styles color palette, unfortunately, the way that the background colors are built is more of a static color. So it's kind of more just used to reach for the palette, use the color, move on. But if you are taking full advantage of all the global styles things, which I'll do a little debrief on that, just know there's a little bit of disconnection. So a couple of things that I'll just show off here is if we go into the power up section, we go to global styles. If you're not familiar with this, we've got tons of videos and there's going to be a lot of information shared throughout this month on the global styles feature, but it's kind of this palette idea that I'm talking about. It's like, let's say we wanted not only your theme color, but maybe like a secondary accent. And I'm going to choose with our color picker like this green color. So there's my secondary accent color. So then when you're, doing all sorts of things in your course and you want to be able to just use that palette, you just flip over that styles tab and there you go. Good to use that anywhere that you want to use that, which is super fun. And then, like I'd mentioned, now also available as background colors. So you can take full advantage of those recently used as well as your global styles color palette, which is fun. Another feature that we released that I didn't realize was such a big deal, but my designers like praise me all the time about like, thank you for releasing this. And I was like, I didn't know that mattered to anyone. And that is related to line height. So if any of you have ever used the line height option inside of the rich text editor, historically it would always just say default if you've never actually overridden it. Um, and that drives a lot of designers crazy because you guys want to know, well, what does default mean? Because default is nothing, it's not a value to me. So I want to know what is the line height. And so now, anytime you go to highlight some text and change this drop down, it'll tell you what that line height is. And then when you need to like revert any line heights that you've changed, you can just hit default and it will just default it back to either your global style settings or Rise default settings. And then you're good to go. So you can also clear it back out if you need to, as well as it'll just show those out of the gate. So glad to hear that that's a big deal. I see that in the chat.
I'll say lots of reactions. So everyone is doubling down on what Amy and Brianna said to you earlier.
Nice. Yeah, I was just, oh, whatever. That's fine. We can make that change. And then yeah, it's glad to hear that's exciting. Another thing that I wanted to mention is in regards to just like general mighty things that are happening. If you guys aren't familiar, we do have this whole like Maestro community space that we've got going on here. And a couple of things that I want to call out. The first is our code catalog, which this is really intended for you guys just in the community to share thoughts, ideas with each other. Maybe it's like custom code snippets that you've worked on, or it's interactive HTML blocks that you've worked on, sharing just kind of inspiration of things that you're doing. So feel free to post those out to our team. We review those and then we release those out for everyone else to take advantage of. So there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Emily's got a couple of things in here which she may touch on, but she may touch on more of the overarching core stuff that. So lots of fun stuff that you'll find inside of the code catalog. We also, if you're not familiar, have just kind of like an inspirational space. This is the really good Rise courses, or someone make the pun of like mighty good Rise courses. But this is a fun space where it's like intended for you guys to get in, look at a Rise course, and kind of get inspiration based on all sorts of various things that our team has used inside that space or within those courses. So feel free to use that as inspiration as you guys maybe like thinking about a new course design, or you're just trying to like see what's out there that other people have been doing. This is a great space to jump into. And then lastly, I want to mention before I hand this over to Emily that we do have MC challenges that happen. So the idea here is we're going to do like monthly challenges and be able to not only specific to Mighty, but even just general design ideas. Again, just give you guys a moment in your month to just like break away from your typical work and create inspiration, see what other people are doing. So that's kind of the idea of that MC challenges space. So we'll have one kicked off here, I think in the first week of March. Is that right, Sydney?
Yep, it'll be in March. First or second week in March is when we'll kick it off. And I wanted to really quickly, sorry, Pinkster, I meant to jump in when you were talking about really good Rise courses. Um, I was just going to mention that the vision of this is really to be kind of like a Pinterest of Rise courses where you guys can go for inspiration. And what we're hoping, actually, this should also launch in March, is that we're going to start having contributions. So we don't want it to just be our team that has our courses on here. We want other people to contribute. So it'll be open for you to add in your own courses. And then we'll have a really fun, like MC favorites kind of badging when it has a lot of comments and likes. And then we're going to have something called the Wowies, which are the courses that our team selects to be highlighted. And then you'll also be able to tell which ones have Mighty involved or not. And then if they're created by the Maestro team. So a little more functionality coming to that soon that I hopefully you guys will enjoy.
Nice. Yep. And there should also be links for these as well. You can dive through all that as well. So
Yeah.
nice. I think that was all the time I wanted to spend on the things over the last month that we've been doing. We've got a lot of things in the works, as you guys know. Things like find and replace that we're working on, where you could actually go and find any text in your course and replace that with any other text that you want to replace that with. So we've got that in the works, as well as we're going to start to really enhance a lot of the things when it comes to our interactive HTML block. And you'll start to see little glimpses of those show up inside of our block library, which also you may have noticed there's an update to this where you can search for blocks, make a little bit faster experience to explore different blocks that we've got, as well as sort by, the default sort that we used to have, as well as recently used alphabetical newest. So I can see very valuable the recently used, the newest, being good filters or sorts for you to be able to jump back and forth to, because you're going to start to see some new blocks show up that are really taking advantage of the way and the direction that our interactive HTML block is going. So more to come on exactly what that means next month. Not to hold a cliffhanger there, but I'm going to do that. But just know that there will be some fun updates happening in this space. We'll always make those announcements inside of MC, so you can certainly find those in this Mighty user space. I typically drop down whenever there's new releases that happen. I'll let you guys know what's in those releases. But more to come on the whole block library. This thing is gonna explode with new fun ideas very, very soon. So all right, that's all the time I'm going to take up. I'm going to hand things over to you, Emily. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then you can dive into all your fun things happening with the course. As soon as I can find the Zoom window. Oh, there it is. There you go.
Cool. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. I appreciate it. It's really nice. I'm pretty new to Mighty, I think just in the last few months, but it's changed everything. So I'm happy to share how that how that impacted the course that I'm about to walk through. And I figured I would just start with my process in it, and then I can show you the back end, what I did, what things I used from Mighty. Um, and I don't know if it is available in this chat. I'll put it in here again, but I just made a little quick link that has like how I built it, the components, my style guide, because it's really the big foundation. So I will add it here in the chat now. Um, Give me just one moment. But anyway, I did a lot of vibe coding. So that is a big component of this. And what I have learned when it comes to learning design and vibe coding is that if I don't start with rules and with a system for it to access, I do a lot of rework. And so just like any good project, I think that most of us who are in design or have been doing graphic design any time in your life, you know that it's really important to have like a guide and components. And so I'm about to share the guide and the components that I built. And let me know when you're able to see my screen.
Yep.
Yes, we can see it, Emily.
Okay. Okay, great. And I'll share that link in just a minute with everybody. But the first thing that I did is I wanted to create a style guide so that I wouldn't have to continue to, tell and coach my vibe coding anytime I wanted to make something or come up with ideas. I wanted it to have something to refer to. And so I made a philosophy for this course. And this course, by the way, was something that I had to do for my master's program. I'm
Hey,
graduating next week.
hey, Emily, I don't know
Oh,
if we're seeing the right screen. We're seeing the one with the little Zoom pop up
Yep.
oh
message.
gosh. You guys don't want to see that. Give me a minute. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Emily. All right, let me know when you can see what should say design philosophy at the top.
There we are.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, sweet.
Thank you.
Um, so this was something that I had to make. So this was a fun project. Nobody gave me any type of configurations. It was you need to come up with some research and then create a course that goes alongside of it. And so I really was interested in looking at how short form videos like YouTube and TikTok are it, people are teaching things every day and I don't think that they realize it. And I'm impressed often with the ways in which they approach it. How could you leverage that as a learning designer? So that was that. And with my design philosophy, I wanted to make sure that I came up with a good idea that the design went along with it, that it spoke to it, that it was, inherent to this whole idea that people who aren't traditionally trained in learning can still have a huge impact on those of us who on a huge global audience. So I wanted to make it, this is about democratization. You're democratizing learning. Well, the zine aesthetic from a while ago was something that I really clung onto. So that was how I came up with the way I wanted it to look. And so I built this style guide that I could ask I used Claude Code for most of this or, Claude Chat, if you will, to come up with any components or interactives that you'll see that you've seen in the course if you've checked it out. And then it would always have something to refer to. So it knew what the colors were. I wouldn't have to tell it every time. I could ask it to, access this. And so that was part of it. And then another huge component was creating a library within Figma. So I think early on when I first was doing the trial for Mighty, I was like eating up all of these little tutorials. I think they're called Design with Me that Mighty does. And um, I think I don't know if it was you, Sydney. It might not. I think it might have been someone else who showed how you could make your own transitions with Figma and just with the right you know, knowing the sizing, you would be able to make your own. And so that was really exciting to me. And so if you have seen my course, you see there's some pretty fun transitions in there. They look like washi tape or staples. I don't know, actually, I didn't use any staples in the course. I designed them, but I didn't end up using them. But these are the little transitions, and they're just exported as images. And then I use the marker block in Rise, which is, you know, I guess default or your standard block. That's not it doesn't, it does. Are there Mighty
Yeah, like
extensions or that go with that?
are you referring to the labeled graphic block
Yes,
probably?
the labeled graphic. Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you could use the transitions block. There's like an image option for that. But
Right.
yeah, that was like our old school reach. We would just always reach for that labeled graphic, turn off all the
Yeah.
labels, and there you go.
Yeah, and I think that's what I learned. I learned that, and I was like, "Oh, this opens up a huge world for me." And I did use the Mighty transition block. So, for example, in the course itself, there is like at the top here, that's a Mighty transition. Um, but stuff like this is simply a the labeled marker block. Um, and you wouldn't think that. So that was something I didn't know until I saw the design with me. And like you can see, a lot of this are just they're just frames that were used, or I asked my code to call it or to access it while I was developing some of the more interactive pieces. The things that I've shared on um, in our code community or the that was all built with vibe coding. I'm not a developer or programmer. I know just enough to know how to prompt it correctly, but that's about it. And I found it to be, you know, like I said, a huge breakthrough. And along with having the mighty HTML blocks and the snippets, that was a huge part of my course and what I think really, um, elevated it. And when I say the snippets, I mean, if you're not familiar with those, um, especially on the back end, they can change so many things at a global level. So, for example, before the newest releases related to styles, I had something take over from a snippet level, the like this, for example, that is something that I added to a snippet, and it just changes the way that the continuous blocks look, no matter, anytime I add them on. When I view it or preview it or publish it, they're going to look like this instead of what you might, normally expect. This little chat bot also sits in a snippet. So it's a global, it adds it to everything. The one thing that I had a little bit of difficulty doing and figured it out was a sticker book. And that sticker book only should sit on the outside of this lesson. And so I didn't really know how to configure that. And I ended up just adding this, I'm going to call it a timer, but it just kind of looks to make sure that it's only showing up on the pages that have a certain word. And so I had to, that's the really as sophisticated as it is. And if I go to another section, it goes away because it knows that that's not part of the design or its rules, if you will. So that's really it in terms of like how, sophisticated it is, but I would not have been able to do it without the global snippets and rules. Um, Everything else, like I said, is primarily either created in Figma so that I could drop it in as an image. And then if you access any of those design with me, I think I watched a few where your team gives us ideas and like how you can tweak things just a little bit with a mighty power up or a mighty configuration. It's pretty cool. So I'll stop there. Does anyone have any like specific questions? Because I could talk about this forever, but I want to make sure that it matters and it's meaningful to you.
Yeah, I saw one question pop up. It's just like, where did you get your design inspiration from?
Um, from zine aesthetic, like I love anything bright pink. I love stickers. I'm like almost 50, but really I'm 12. So I wanted something that was fun. And it to me, I wanted, the research or the whole program that I went through was about, learning design and technology. How do we capture people's attention and get people to want to participate in something like this, especially if it needs to be longer than 60 seconds, um, in a way that, is visually, attractive. And so to me, I just went with like what would make me, want to stick around and discover things because really something like this, you know, it's 5 lessons long. It's not a long course, but it could look that way. And I just wanted something to, be fun, and I wanted to be able to discover things and find things hiding. If it were me, I would want things that I could take away. So when I was doing my vibe coding, I wanted to um, program and make sure that there were, ways in which if I'm going to take a test, I want to be able to walk away with something that I can use again later. And I wanted my stickers. So if I'm going to get stickers, I want to be able to print them out. So that was another thing. I don't know
Uh,
if that answered your question, but that's it really was that. And I love, you know, pink and stickers.
nice. Um, Another question is if you go back to the other lesson,
Oh
uh,
no. Which lesson?
yeah, maybe just reload the page. I'm not sure what's
Okay,
going.
good.
It was the lesson where you've got the like watch this, and then there's like the image next to it with like the player um of a video. Yeah. So this to me looks like it's like the image and text block. Does the play like what does the play functionality do? Or I guess
Plays
what
a video.
okay, so yeah, so what is this block? Is this a custom
This
block?
block is not a this is a vibe coded block. This is a code block. At first I designed it to be an image, and then when I had the image here, I was like, oh, I could just put a little hook video because I'm one of the things or the principles that you teach is creating a hook and grab people within the first few minutes, which is what they do on TikTok, with something audacious or some, crazy thing to say. Because this was academic, I had to, tone it down a bit, but this was, I wanted something playful. And this was the only way that I could do it with the skill set that I have. I imagine there are probably ways to do this in a different way without needing to put it into code. But
Uh,
that's what this block is.
yeah. Honestly, that's what I would recommend these days, and especially as I start to talk about more and more advancements that are coming with our interactive HTML block, like you building a custom block that is your experience that you want it to be versus trying to create all sorts of hacks with existing Rise blocks. Uh, you're going to be in a messy situation there. I would definitely recommend building more of your own interactive blocks that you can like have as your own library of blocks that then you can reuse throughout many different courses that are configurable in all these various ways. So yeah, that's really cool approach there. Another question was around accessibility. What was your kind of approach on that? Had you addressed that when you were doing all of your vibe coding? Is it fully accessible?
I'm going to be honest with you. So I built something around accessibility, but I don't think that this course is fully accessible yet. It needs help. And I will tell you mainly due to the text, like, so this font that I picked, the Courier Prime, because it looks like type. I love it. And in certain instances, especially like when you're, looking at this screen, it can be quite small. So just from that very, tiny little reflection, I don't think that it is as accessible as it could be. And that was actually something that, like, during my, I had to present this and get feedback, like almost like a crit. And with my professors, that was a huge part of this. Like, this looks great. And there's other things like iterate on this because, like, for example, I wouldn't put this out or ship it, if you will, without doing a deep dive from an accessibility standpoint, because some of the buttons for like that mobile phone, for example, it's really small. And then when I look at it and use it on a mobile device, using it in on like a tablet, is great. It's pretty functional. When I get on the phone, it's not as great. So I would I would need to create two different environments, like almost as like you do when you're building a website, if you have any familiarity with that. I know this team does, but you kind of build two different environments where you structure it to make it look like it would on a desktop, and then you do it for mobile. I would need to do that for this and put in some programming or code so that it would know what device you were taking it on and it would switch. That's as far as I've gotten in terms of it. But I did write, I did have it written out here, in term, making sure that it, non-negotiables. Did it do that? I would need to run a test to make sure. But my instincts are it's not as accessible as it could be.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think a lot of us feel that too. We're building out things and we then run it through a color comparison and yeah, our colors aren't quite right. So yeah, definitely making sure that you're taking that time. Another question that was thrown out there by Alex is just, you're not a developer you had mentioned. So how do you go from where you're not a developer to a design like this? How much time are you spending in like understanding the vibe code world and like spending energy there and like how much time did that take to go from, I hear everyone talk about vibe code and
Mm.
I'm not a developer to you're now building blocks using Claude Code, Claude Chat. Uh yeah, just talk a little bit about your experience, your exposure, what you went through there.
Sure. So when I started this in November of 2025, so not very long. I had just started to hear about it, and honestly, on TikTok, I started like following. I always followed design and UX and UI stuff because that's where I kind of come from. And people were starting to talk about how it was, impacting their workflow. So workflow, not really like output in terms of what design would do or creating graphics or anything like that, but that the workflow, the things that we can do repeatedly. And so I started looking into that a little bit more. And then that opened up people saying, look, I built this game. Look, I built this, you know, feedback mechanism. And I started to see other designers on LinkedIn talking about the things that they were doing and building and the ways that they were leveraging vibe coding to make the learning experience better. And I thought that this could be something, powerful. And I want to give it a shot. It took, it was very time consuming at first, but I honestly watched a lot of the design with me's, any of the videos that this team puts out. There was one where I think you did your yearly wrap up,
Hmm.
and there was a video that was like, here's how we did some of this. And that was huge. And that really opened the doors for me. Um, I also, at the same time, was taking a course from Jeff Batt, and he has a whole thing on how to do it in Storyline. And so I was trying to do this in Storyline, no vibe coding, just understanding JavaScript and how you can start to do that. And then at the same time, this intersected, and I was like, put that aside. Because that was a lot. Because that's how I thought I was going to have to do the things I wanted to do. And really just through trial and error, and then realized very quickly that if I had a system for Claude Code to access, for any chat to access, it was making things a lot faster. And when I say a system, I mean rules. So
Yeah.
if I give it rules, if I have something that it can go back to, I don't have to explain it to it all the time. Hallucinations are less because, it doesn't get it wrong when I say, hey, can you, use this? Creating projects within Claude chat or just Claude was really great because all of the instructions sat in there at first. Anything more complex where the chat would get overwhelmed and wouldn't, it would time out. That's when I started to use Claude code. And that was very intimidating to me because it involved setting it up in a terminal. It still is intimidating to me. But I'm trying to force myself because I see that's where this industry is going. Like if I'm not leveraging these tools, I will be, you know, I won't be as effective as I am today. I
Yeah.
hope that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah. I think I just saw Alex had to jump to another meeting, but yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's great, great info, great insights. I also want to say in the Claude space, Claude or Anthropic also released a new version of Claude Code that gives you a little bit better UI, better experience called Cowork. So that would also be another
Yes.
interesting thing for people who like don't necessarily want to live in the web UI space, but like want to have some sort of on desktop chat. There is that. I've not actually personally played with it. I know there's a couple of team members who have here at Maestro just to experiment around with what that is and how it gives you still that companion, that coding buddy, without living in like a terminal window, which is, yeah, is a little freaky. So, yeah, that's awesome. Very exciting to hear all of that. Sid, is there other questions that popped up?
Aaron had just kind of like it's along the same lines of what you were talking about. Just wondering if any of the interactions or activities that you built were in Storyline or if they were all vibe coded, and then if there were any that actually used native Rise blocks throughout.
That's a great question. I did not use any storyline. This is the first time that I haven't had a storyline embed in a Rise course. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to even use Rise until I had the Mighty extension because I didn't think that it would, I'd started playing in Lovable and I was like, I can just build it all in here. But then I didn't know how to. I had seen someone on LinkedIn, Mel Milloway. She was building your ability to track it with Swarm. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. But then I couldn't figure out how to have them talk. And I just said, no, I'm going to just use Rise and stick with it. But the blocks that I use that were, um, actually like native to Rise were pretty few, to be honest. Even this I touched, that's, it's being overridden by the snippet that I added at a global level with a power up. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I used. Um, nope. This is an image and text block. That's about it. Let me see. Yeah, this was vibe coded snippet. These were heavy on graphics and vibe coding, like this entire section. This area here, this is vibe coded and then uses my components from my Figma file as well.
Nice.
So I, I feel like I kind of cheated a little bit, but I didn't need it. I didn't need the things that were in Rise, but they gave me ideas and a foundation.
Mhm.
So I would often tell hey, I need it to have these dimensions. I want to make sure that it aligns this way, that kind of thing. But yeah, not very much. Let me see. I might have some buttons at the end. Yeah, so this is another screen that's just a vibe code frame. So I gave it my component from my Figma file and told Claude to just, give me a framework that I can put the code into the to Rise. This is native to it, and that's about it, honestly. Or a survey because I needed to collect feedback, and I'm glad that I did. And then the exit button. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, I do want to touch on the storyline piece because that is an interesting topic we haven't really talked about is just like obviously you can build a lot of this in storyline, but as you saw, it takes a lot more time than being able to kind of just start up these chat prompts and start to work through your thoughts and ideas, especially once you wire those up to a Figma design, you have your whole style guide built up. Like it can go and read and feed all of that back into kind of the things that you're building versus creating all these various storyline components. And then, I mean, one, the time it takes to build those, and then two, back to the accessibility piece, a lot of those, because the way storyline components get brought into Rise, is they get brought in more as like a slide frame that then is scalable based on your window size. And so I know a lot of
Mm,
us have experienced that where especially like there's text and whatnot in there, you get onto a tablet size or mobile device, like it really scales it down almost to an unreadable state versus you just using normal web technologies and it'll line wrap as it should as you get into smaller screen sizes and whatnot. So there's a lot of pros into really leaning into the code block or the interactive HTML block. And like I said, we've got some fun changes coming down the pipeline to be able to make building those interactives significantly easier, makes it configurable, reusable for future use, as well as would have built-in SCORM tracking. So you can actually get XAPI statements pushed out through our interactive HTML blocks as well as any SCORM like 2004 runtime interactions. So you could really get all of that embedded into your blocks and like have it start reporting more and more data to your LMS, which will be super fun. We'll talk about that soon in the next month or two. But a lot of cool things that you're showing off and the capabilities of you doing the upfront work and you building those style guides and you building your design files and then from there connecting that to, you know, I keep calling it the coding buddy that actually does some of the work. So
Yeah.
Emily, I have
uh,
one more question that kind of got stuck up here. I just want to make sure I pull it down
Oh,
really
yeah.
quick. And I don't, this could be difficult to answer. You kind of talked about your process with vibe coding anyways, and I think that was
Mhm.
part of this coursework, but somebody was just wondering if you had an estimate of like time investment to creating the course.
Yes. I started in November. I finished early January. And most of that was um, iteration. And the thing that was the most time consuming was this part, building these graphics. I'm not, the fastest, so it took me a lot of time to do this. But I mean, something like this, with all of the tools in place that I had, and when I say tools, I mean my style guide, my components, um, maybe 8 to 12 weeks. And the like I would say December to January was me just really tweaking things based on feedback.
Mm,
So I
yeah,
think it would probably take me another few weeks, and I intend to do this to make it more accessible and, so that it has a little bit more of a reactive experience. But having these two things, a component library and the style guide, I mean, made it super fast.
yeah, you definitely set up for success there. Love seeing that process.
yeah, I think about the speed too. I know with our art school, we talk about that, like setting up your art board up front and like really making sure that you're spending time and energy at the front side of the project to kind of lay out your standards. That way you don't get halfway through and you're like, oh crap, I want to change everything now that I see it. Shout
Yeah.
out to Amy.
Amy covers all the mood boarding and the style sheet and all that. You're right. Yeah. That's what it made me think of too.
Yeah, and that's not my discipline either in terms of like I am undisciplined. I just want to get to it and do it and make things and be creative. And so to have to be like to think about it in that process oriented is really a challenge for me. But it does save me a lot of time. And you can make something as quickly with this. I also made all the videos and oh, I want to point out, I think real quick, that there is a section, it's a game, the Spot the Strategy. And these videos were made in artlist.io, and they're not even real people, which is really crazy. So this is not a real creator. This is just prompt based. Um, so all of it is it's all code. And this is not a person. I mean, so I was amazed. I couldn't believe this. I thought I was going to have to ask, content creators if I could use
Permission.
some of their
Yeah.
video. Yeah, but now I didn't have to. So yeah,
That's
just
wild.
to add to the craziness that AI is sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's cool that you got your captions also popping up. Um,
Yeah,
if you scroll down, does that, oh, nice. They like float on the screen too. That's cool. Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fun. Now you're gonna make me want to
yeah.
dig in from a code perspective, like, how do I do all this? Nice. I know another question that popped up is okay, so we're building all these things using vibe coding. How does that work when now I send my course over to get translated with the translation company? Because
Ooh.
that's a real pain point for a lot of people, and honestly will just become more painful because now instead of translation companies basically just taking one Rise file that they know they've built a whole process around, a whole system around, and be able to then translate all of the text for all of your various languages. Now that you've split up all of your content into multiple or like many, I mean, you heard Emily, she has probably majority of them are actually interactives that she just added to the course. How does that translation process work? Um, so I don't know exactly what translations companies' experiences are going to be. I think I had seen word from Rise at least that they're just like, hey, we haven't handled how to translate interactive blocks or code blocks in their world that you're utilizing. We have plans on how that can happen. Um, and I can definitely talk more about how to make that an easy process. But I think at the end of the day, when you're doing a lot of your prompting, what you're going to want to make sure is that you let, whatever tool you're using, ChatGPT, Cursor, Claude, whatever, let it know up front, like, hey, I intend to translate this content because it will set you up best. Versus if you don't let it know, what it's most likely going to do from like a dev perspective is just start to like hard code in all of the text intermittently throughout your HTML. And so like a translation company is going to have a much harder time dealing with that than versus like a config file that, they can just go and grab config files out of your interactive and then from there translate those configurations. So I know Zainab and Mel and others, when they've like built up interactives, and you probably have this too, Emily, where in your interactive, there's like a section that's like, here's my config of the data. And I would heavily encourage you guys to prompt that as a part of your process and just say like, hey, again, if you're thinking about translations, think about that ahead of time and make sure that you instruct that ahead of time. So then that way, when it comes time to do your translations, you're not kicking yourself because now you've got to rework all these interactives and hope AI doesn't break it when it reworks your interactive to try to make it translatable. So do a lot of that work up front. And again, more to come from our team as we're spending a lot of energy dreaming and thinking about the future of where these interactives are going to go. Because we're going to have a lot of thoughts and ideas on how exactly that could work and easily work directly with Rise from a configuration perspective. So again, more to come on exactly our perspective there. But definitely think about it ahead of time, prompt that in ahead of time, and it will certainly save you uh, potentially $1,000+ in translation costs. So
Great tip there, John. Hey, Emily, do you I know we're going to be running out of time here for Q&A and for the rest of the general Mighty demo. If some people have extra questions, could they post on your like original post in MC?
Yeah,
Um,
oh yeah, no problem.
okay, awesome. I'm going to direct you guys there for the questions we weren't able to get to. And then Pinkster, I had two other Q&A questions that came through earlier
yeah,
that I'd love to pull up. But also maybe like a round of applause virtually or in the chat or reactions for Emily for sharing. Thank you so much, Emily, for taking the time to walk
Thank
through all
you.
that and answer questions. I know when you first posted that course in MC, people went wild. So we were super excited that you were willing to jump on here and talk through it.
Thanks for having me.
yeah, very exciting.
So, okay, Pinkster, a question that came through from Francis. One second. Okay. Something that was posted in community, but just they're trying to create a timer for each lesson, but the
Mhm.
user cannot advance the next slide until the time has expired. And they were just kind of wondering if there was any ideas for how to accomplish that.
Yes, I think I shared an example of this. Let me see if I can find it in the code catalog. Time-based skating for your Rise lesson. That sounds exactly like what you want. And I even have a video. Yeah,
Amazing.
so watch this video. What I'm doing is I'm leveraging a interactive HTML block, and in that block is a configuration where you set up how much time that lesson should take before that block gets completed. So you want to make sure to turn off the autocomplete feature. And then you'll also want to make sure that at the end of your lesson, there is a continue button, which requires either all the blocks above to be completed, or truthfully, you could just stick this one interactive right above it. So I walk through all of that in this video. I would show you now, otherwise, um, but we're running out of time and I want to do a little bit of a demo before we bail. But check out this video. Sid, if you haven't already, just post this link to this in the chat. And I walked through all that. This should be exactly what you're looking for. And just let us know if you run into any issues in implementing that.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, or was that it?
I think I have the other one answered. I need to just post it, but I think I've got it. So you're good
Cool.
to go.
So I'm going to pivot for the last 12-ish minutes to knock out a demo for anyone. I'll also look in the chat if anyone wants to just restate. If you're new to Mighty, that'll help me know kind of where to start in my conversation here. And appreciate everyone joining. Feel free to bail if you want to at this point. Our next meetup is going to be March 24th. And then we're going to have a bye month of April because we'll be out in Europe for that month. So join us in March. We'll have a lot of fun, exciting things to talk about. And then otherwise, we'll see you back in May. All right. So I'm going to jump into a demo of Mighty. So let me go ahead and switch back over to this course here. I don't see anyone yet stating they're super new to Mighty, so hopefully everyone's fairly familiar with this at this point. At a high level, I guess I'll just throw it back out. It is a Chrome extension that you can just get from the Chrome store. Once you install it, free 30-day trial, jump in. I really encourage everyone to try it out before you purchase a subscription. We do have a monthly and annual subscriptions. I feel like relatively cheap based on how much crazy stuff you can do, as Emily just showcased. It's 337 US dollars a year, or you could do the $47 a month. So some options there, but definitely try out the trial. Check it out. Make sure that this is right for you and your organization. Once you get in, you're going to start to notice all these things show up once you've got that Mighty extension installed. Anytime you see this Mighty magenta color, that's like us saying, hey, we've done some cool things. I'm going to jump into our after lesson. So lots of different features that really Mighty adds to the Rise product. And as you'll see, it's all super integrated. There's no like weird quirkiness where you like do your development in Rise and then you leave to some other weird product. It's all right here baked into Rise, which is super fun. Anything from blocks where we're just introducing new blocks to Rise's existing block library to modifications to existing Rise blocks. So as an example, let me go down to like the notes block. Tons of modifications that you can do with the notes block to really get a good look and feel for how you want these experiences to look inside of your course. So for notes blocks, attachments blocks, embed blocks, etc. The list goes on. And so all of those kind of have been noted over here. You see like these Mighty indicators letting you know that we've touched those. And then if you go into these blocks, we've got little mod indicators letting you know that there's mods for all of those different blocks. So we enhance Rise features. We add new features in regards to just like lesson level blocks to your course, as well as we have this whole power up section, which is like you want to really kind of do anything overarching your course, this is the space to do that in. So we've got the custom code feature, which Emily was really talking about, a lot of those custom code snippets. Again, you can find a lot of those over in Maestro community within that code catalog section. We do have our global styles feature, which I sort of touched on in the beginning, but this really allows you to take a course, either use our starter styles or create your own type styles. Again, back to what Emily was talking about and creating your style guide up front. This is your style guide for typography. So do that, create your color styles, and then from there, now you can really start to gloss over your entire course and even assign them globally to all sorts of blocks. So you don't have to touch the button block every time to make it look a certain way. You can just do that once here, and then every time you add buttons or paragraphs or headings or what have you, they'll always look consistent with what you want look and feel wise. So um, lots of great features. The way all of this builds out is that as soon as you go to publish your course, we just take the output that Rise gives, which is that zip file for your LMS or even for web, and then we just add all of the Mighty functionality into that zip file for you, give that back to you. So then that way you just hand that off to your LMS admin, or if you publish that on your own, you could just go and publish that. And then no learner or anyone needs to know your secret weapon of like, how did you take what used to be your boring courses to look like this and like what is your special sauce, and they don't have to install anything, they don't have to do anything there. It's really just all baked into your Rise course, which is super fun. um, we also do handle the review workflow because, as we know, that's very important to get feedback from stakeholders. So you'll just need to go through and publish your course out using a new review item one time, and then from there, you can still reuse that same review item every time. We've just got to create a mightified version of your Review 360 item. Once that's good to go, Review 360 also works. You get all of your fun commenting and everything like that. So a lot of great stuff built in there. I see a couple of messages coming through. Anything I need to address here, Sid, so far?
Chat was just wondering where to find the block IDs. We said that in a previous Mighty Meetup.
Yep.
Needed
This
a
has
little
changed.
refresh.
Yeah, so this has changed a little bit. We used to have our own version of Quicksort for several months. Rise got inspired and they created their own version of managed blocks, which is great. Let them build that managed blocks feature, no problem. So we took away our quick sort. We moved a lot of that functionality over into the managed blocks section. So right here, if you just right click, it's kind of sneaky. You can copy block IDs. So this is probably the fastest way to get a block ID when you're in your authoring mode. However, if you're trying to build, let's say like a custom code snippet, that is scoped for a specific block, which I know I just said a mouthful, but code snippet for a block. Then in here, this is where you'll also be able to see those block IDs. So if you're ever building something specific for a block, you can instruct your AI coding buddy that you're using Mighty and a code snippet that's block scoped. And at least when I do this by now, it knows what that means. And so it'll just give you all the things that you need. But you don't need to necessarily have it like watch for everything happening in your course. Code snippets are really fun in the sense of you could have it watch everything in your course, or you could have it only fire for specific lessons or only for specific blocks. So really kind of playing around with those toggles gives you different variations of these. So you can leave it at entire course, copy it from here, or if you're doing something for a specific block, just scope it for that block and then apply your snippet to that block, and then it will only run there. Like as an example, I could build this up and then just say, uh, I don't want you to exist. So I can just say display none and it's gone. And it's only for that block. So like there's all sorts of fun things that you can do with these block scoped snippets. What
Thanks.
other questions?
S Dents was wondering if you could review again how to publish to SCORM and HTML using
Yeah.
Mighty.
Yeah. So it is the exact same way you're familiar with. So you'll just go to publish and you'll say web or LMS. And then once you publish this, you'll see a little bit of a different screen where Mighty shows up instead of Rise, because we let Rise build your whole course up. We take that built course, we add Mighty files into that folder, and then that's what you get back. So really at the end of the day, just kind of hang out here, wait for you to get your download, and then I'll show you a little sneak peek into what I mean. So once we open this up, oops, there's just this additional folder right here, which is really the magic of embedding Mighty into your course. So just like normal, just take your zip file, throw it either to your web team to host that or to your LMS admins.
Awesome. That answered that. Courtney was also wondering if there's an enhancement on its way that will make Mighty visible in preview links for quick share. I feel like we've had quick share questions before.
Oh yeah, people love quick share. I do too. This is probably something that will feel enough pain from all y'all that will build our version of quick share. It's just not currently on our roadmap. Right now, my answer is to just tell whoever you're wanting to quickly share it with to install the extension. They don't need a subscription or anything to see any Mighty functionality, which I know isn't ideal because I know some of you are just like, you take the quick share link that's been published and then you like link that out on your website. So anyone could find it. And I know, that's how a lot of you are leveraging this. Uh, it's not off the table that we're going to build a Mighty version of this. It's just not currently our main focus. And you'll appreciate that here in the next couple of months when you see what our main focus has been. But someday soon we will probably get to that.
All the cliffhangers on your Mighty Meetups. Arthur, Karen, and Thea, if there's anything specific that you want to see, those are three people that I know are brand new to this. If there's anything specific you want to see, feel free to add that to the chat and we can try to cover it in these next few minutes, or you can always reach out to us in Maestro community or via email.
Nice.
Add those links in there for you.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's all I've got, unless if anyone has anything else. We will catch you guys all at the next Mighty Meetup. Like I had mentioned, that will be March 24th. So a month, fourth Tuesday of next month.
Yes.